If you watch my video which looked into whether schools will be reopening in June, then my thoughts as a teacher on that, then you'll have some idea of what the government have been planning and why some people were against it and why some were for it. But it turns out that it doesn't really matter much that people were against it because schools are going to be reopening anyway. So we've got nurseries, reception, year 1 and year 6 coming back on June the 1st, and secondary schools, 6th form, and colleges will be reopening on the 15th of June with year 10 and year 12. Now this doesn't have to be immediate, by the way, so make sure that you're paying attention to the emails, the text and the other notifications that your school are sending out so that you know exactly when you have to actually go back in, because you don't want to turn up at school and find that you've either missed a week because you didn't realise that you started back already, or that you're there a week early and you're the only one there with all the key worker children because your school hasn't opened to year 10 and year 12 yet. You don't want to be one of those. So make sure that you're paying attention and looking out for those notifications. And speaking of key worker children, you guys will carry on going to school as you have been. So the year 10s and year 12s will be there, but also all the other years, key worker children and children who were going in this whole time, they'll continue to go in as well. So yes, schools will be opening in the coming few weeks, which should be an interesting affair, especially considering that the government has also said that only a quarter of the students from year 10 and year 12 should be in at any given time at the moment. So that sounds sort of like a quarter week timetable. So it's definitely not going to be anything like normal school. The way that things move forward from here is still a bit unknown, and the government says it's taken a cautious approach. Some would argue that they're not, but I'm no expert, so I'll leave that up to you to decide. So with this cautious approach, they say that these 5 tests have to be passed for schools to begin to reopen properly and to open in a wider way in the future. 1. Protect the NHS's ability to cope. We must be confident that we are able to provide sufficient critical care and specialist treatment right across the UK. 2. See a sustained and consistent fall in the daily death rates from COVID-19, so we are confident that we have moved beyond the peak. 3. Reliable data from SAGE shows that the rate of infection is decreasing to manageable levels across the board. 4. Be confident that the range of operational changes, including testing capacity and PPE, are in hand, with supply able to meet future demand. And 5. Be confident that any adjustments to the current measures will not risk a second peak of infections that overwhelm the NHS. So all things which are out of our control, especially as students and teachers. It's just stuff going on in the wider country as a whole that's going to decide whether the schools opening starts to widen out a bit more. We've also got some more information to come exactly on how it's going to work, even though we've only got about 4 days as of recording this until the June 1st when things do reopen. There's still quite a lot of questions going around as to how exactly this is going to work within schools. But the basic guidelines given to schools include some of the following: reducing the size of class and keeping children in small groups without mixing with others. And I've heard that classes could be shrunk to as small as 15, maybe even less. Staggered break times and lunch times, as well as drop-offs and pickups. So you'll have a situation where children are not playing together, all together at the same time, and parents aren't coming to pick them all up at the same time either. Increasing the frequency of cleaning, reducing the use of shared items, and utilising outdoor space. That's where it's going to get a bit tougher, especially with the reducing the use of shared items. And the government also acknowledges that full social distancing may not be possible. So they know that we cannot operate as other places have been, like shopping centres where they've had the 2-metre gaps and everything. That cannot happen in the school, and they know that can't happen in the school. They've accepted that. Here's an interesting part though. Students are being advised not to travel by bus or other forms of public transport. They're being encouraged to either walk or to take bikes instead. So it should be quite interesting and maybe quite nice as well to see a bunch of school kids riding down the roads. That's probably what we're going to get used to seeing over the next few weeks. Before we finish up this video, I think I'll take a second to talk about my concerns as a teacher and as a member of staff within school, because we're not the only members of staff in school. People seem to forget that there's an entire team of people who keep a school running, from the cooks to the teacher assistant to the admin staff to the cleaners. They're all there working super hard, and some of them have been working in school while us teachers have been working from home. So there's a lot of staff there, and this is my take on the whole thing. For starters, every member of staff and students touch a whole lot of stuff throughout the day. Okay, from equipment to tables to walls, everything gets touched. All right, it's just things that we don't even think about, but that we do a lot. And as an art teacher, especially, it's very common for me to go sit down right next to a student or lean over a student and use their pencil and correct something. So yeah, I'm used to washing my hands after that at the end of the day, but this is where it starts to get a bit weird because I'm in such close proximity to them, like literally breathing the same air as them as I'm drawing it, because their head is hair, my head is hair, because I'm sitting next to them. And so all of a sudden that's not going to be quite possible anymore, or it shouldn't be, with if we're paying attention to social distancing in any way. Can I still go and lean on their work to draw on it, or maybe I should just back off and just let them work and not help them at all anymore? It is a bit of an interesting one. Also, the amount of time that I spend in close proximity to students is nothing compared to teachers' assistants or LSAs or whatever they're called in your school. They literally sit with specific students throughout the day, right throughout the lesson. With me, I sort of come and go from student to student, and I also spend time at my desk at the front, but these members of staff stay with the students. There's even been a sort of graph put up by the government which actually states that they're at more risk of infection or of coming into contact with other people than we as teachers are. So I don't know. Even with all the measures that we put in place, it still feels a bit soon, considering how serious us staying home has been up until now. So for us to suddenly just jump into an environment which could be considered quite dangerous because of how close we are, if it is as contagious as we've been told. And the thing which bothers me about this also is that as an art teacher, will I be able to do my job properly? I mean, I do feel like me and my students have been suffering a bit from being separated. There's only so much I can sort of do from afar because it is such a practical subject which requires a lot of response to specific problems. Yeah, so it's just a wonder as to how effectively I'll be able to do my job. And then even thinking about that, will we be going back to normal lessons? I have heard some schools are only interested in having short meetings with the students, at least at first, and then later on maybe going to something else. But short meetings just to see where they can help the students on an individual basis and then send them back home. So will it be something more akin to that, where small meetings, or will it be actual full lessons? I mean, for subjects such as photography, textiles, DT, and those sorts of really hands-on practical ones, computing as well, and science, you need the equipment that students don't typically have at home. What are they going to do about that? Because either we're going to be in school using all that equipment, or the students will be at home doing bookwork, which isn't necessarily what the subject's about. Could this mean that if we do have actual lessons, but the class itself is split into smaller chunks and we just repeat the same lesson a few times throughout the day? Maybe that's the case. But either way, we will still have to keep working remotely in some way. So as teachers, our timetables probably won't be packed because we still have to keep working for the year 7s, 8s, 9s, well, not 11s anymore. So it's an unknown thing. And it's also a little exciting at the same time. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be different and it's going to be something new. Whether we'll like it or not, it's something that we'll have to wait and see, I guess. I don't know. How do you feel as students, as parents, as teachers, as just general school staff? How do you feel moving forward about this? Do you feel confident? Are you interested in seeing how this works out? Are you scared? Please let me know down in the comments below. I know that I'm personally not too scared about the whole thing. It's just that you know that you've heard that knowledge is power. You've probably heard that saying. But I feel like there's so much that I don't know at the moment, and so much that the public doesn't know, and maybe so much that the government doesn't know either, that I feel a bit powerless. I feel that a lot of us have sort of had our power, our agency removed from this entire thing, and it's a weird feeling, because even being locked down is a sort of removal of agency. We can't go where we want, and we know that it's of course for a good reason, but it just feels different. And either way, since this whole reopening seems pretty concrete now, this will probably be my last update on this topic. I will, however, try to get up some more information regarding the exams, kind of that's what a lot of you are interested in, how exactly that's going to move forward, especially for year 10s and year 12s. Now that this pretty huge disadvantage in terms of the amount of knowledge that they've missed out on. And so I'll be looking into that. I'll be looking into some of the appeals process as well in coming videos, so please keep an eye out on those as well. If you haven't seen the videos I've already done on GCSE and A-level exams and their cancellations and how that's going to work, check out the cards. I'll put some up in the corner or the ending screens you'll see at the end of this video if you watch to the end, and I'll provide the links there. And also, as usual, I've got the references which I took the information for this video from. They're in the comments down below. It's from a government website, so don't worry, it's nice and reliable information. And yeah, I think that's all for now. By the way, if you haven't already, please feel free to vote in the poll on whether you think that students should be going back to school, students and teachers should be going back to school. It was on the last video that I did on this topic, about whether students will be going back in June. And at the moment, people are leaning more towards no, and that we need more information. So that's interesting. We'll have to see how things end up with that poll as we get a bit closer towards the actual school opening in a few weeks, or in a few days for some. And yes, I believe that's all for now. Be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on more really informative videos like this one. And I'll catch you next time.